Everybody, and good morning to those who are with us online following this talk at IATEFL-Hungary 24th National Conference. Let me start with the thing, I don't know what you're doing here. I'll tell you what I'm doing here. I would like to make up for a mess I created 3 years ago. 3 years ago at the 21st IATEFL-Hungary conference, I had a talk on burnout, and I ended up with the most depressed and unhappy audience I've ever had. So when you talk about burnout, people start recognizing symptoms, and at the end of my talk I felt that everybody now knows what burnout is and that they feel burnt out, and I didn't have the time or the chance to build up from that and to create some kind of positive energy in people. So I'll try to make up for that and tell you what I've been doing since. My name is Enyedi, it's written somewhere there. I work for the university, Ötös University in Budapest, where I have lovely colleagues who are going to be very important for me today. And the other reason I'm here is that earlier this year, I was invited by the Leadership and Management SIG of Big IATEFL in Harrogate, and they had a full day on the issue of burnout. George Pickering was addressing the issue from the perspective of the management. I was representing the teacher's view as much as I could, and then we had an overview by Andy Hopkins, and then everybody felt much better than during my first talk in Budapest 3 years back. So what I planned for today is to give you a 3-minute version of my talk from 3 years ago. What is burnout? What are the myths and truths about it? What people think and what teachers can do. And hopefully I would like to leave with your ideas of what you're going to do about it rather than what it is. And I will also explain why I don't think you're at the right place at the end. And I hope to make up for the mess I created so many years ago. So first of all, I think I found the most depressing background for my slides, but that's intentional. On these orange or I don't know what color, you see a person racing against time or against himself or herself. And there you can see all these matches. And one thing about burnout, just please join us. One thing about burnout is it's contagious. It's like influenza, it's catching. And if you work in a context where teachers are burnt out, there's a very high chance that you're not going to have a good time. This is one thing that we need to be very aware of, that your mental and physical health affects others a lot. We looked into that a few years back, and I started with 3 slides, and those people who were unfortunate enough to go through my long and very depressive sessions, I started with 3 pictures, and I would like you just to think about that. Which is the best representation of burnout? If you look at these 3 images, which ones, or which one would, can you just share it with the person sitting next to you, which is the picture and why? Who are the cat people? Anybody identifies with the first photo? But not first one, but not really. Yeah, okay. Anybody feels for the second one? Most of you would go for this one. Why is that? Emptiness. That's a word that. Exhaustion, emptiness, exhaustion, helplessness. What else is linked with burnout?
very, very hard?
Probably. Lonely. I think that's the key issue, that being tired or working very hard alone is not necessarily something that leads to burnout. But this kind of loneliness on in a long corridor, sitting on your own, low in energy, that's what most people said 3 years ago. That's what they identify with burnout. And if you look at the official definition, the important components of professional burnout is a long-term condition, so feeling tired of Friday afternoon, that's not enough to get burnout. Diminished interest, being depersonalized, emotional exhaustion rather than physical exhaustion, and a diminished sense of accomplishment and appreciation. The last thing is going to be very important today when we talk about colleagues' possible attitude to burnout. And when you talk about burnout and all these components, there used to be the professional areas where people work with people, people are responsible for others, and they are in this kind of caring professions, like doctors, like lawyers, nurses. I would also say teachers, who are very likely to get into this condition, except as what we heard earlier is that teaching is a semi-profession. Definitely there's not as much money in teaching as in business, but business people notice that if people get burnt out, then they lose money. So there's a huge amount of training, there's a huge amount of research, and a huge amount of money that's pumped into helping business people to avoid or to fight burnout. It doesn't happen in education. When I was in Harrogate earlier this year, I was kind of surprised that managers, because it was the LAMSIG, the leaders and managers SIG, managers think that they are most likely to be burnt out. Teachers are perhaps not that much likely to be in this situation, and it's a management issue because the managers are the most important in an institute or in a language school. Now, I secretly know it's the teachers who are the most important people, but who works for the sake of the teachers, who helps the teachers, that's not an issue that a language school or an institute would have very high on their agenda. Managers might think that it's a teacher's responsibility to work in a way and to live in a way that you preserve your energy. And I tend to believe that it's a management issue in a school. But since I can't convince the managers to look after their teachers, I think it's easier to start from ourselves and see what we can do about this thing. So this is, yeah.
A lot depends on the intention of the management and how they take
I think it's very much a management issue, and in my position at the Department of English Language Pedagogy, I visit lots of students in their teaching practice in very different schools, and you know when you walk into the school, you have a kind of feel of the school culture, how happy people are, how much energy there is in the staff room, what's the kind of atmosphere of the staff room, and this is, I think, where we can initiate some change. Okay. This was the very short version of my talk from 3 years ago, and also Harrogate included. So let's have a look, myths and truths. These are a couple of facts, or they look as if they were facts about burnout. Which are myths and which are truths? Can you just read them? It doesn't say that they are underpaid, and it says that burnout is most likely to happen if teachers are underpaid. Who agrees with the first one? Do you think burnout is caused by years of overwork? Can we see a finger vote on that? Yeah. The longer you work, the more burnt out you can be. This is not actually true. Teachers who have been in the job for a long time, they develop, very often they develop very successful strategies for fighting burnout. And one of the reasons I said you're at the wrong place, because the fact that you're here shows that you're still interested. If you were burnt out, you wouldn't be here. You would be probably at home feeling sorry for yourselves. But most of you have long years of teaching experience behind you, and you probably know little secret how to cope with or how to fight burnout, how to avoid, cope with, and fight this thing. Is it a psychological condition? Do you agree with this? Is it something that affects your mentality, your mind?
It's far more complex, I think.
More complex?
Yes.
What do you think, Lodi?
It could be depression and bad feelings, sleep.
And that's not psychological?
That is.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you agree with this?
Psychological
Oh, okay.
It's a complex issue.
All right, okay. It's a psychological condition that can lead to physiological issues as well. People can be physically unwell if the condition of burnout is that's the next stop where we don't want to get. Is it easy to spot? When you walk down the corridor in your school, when you walk into the staff room, can you single out the people who say, she's burnt out? What do you think? Right, yes, initial signs. Yeah? May I ask you to do a little drama activity and to assume the body position of somebody that you think is burnt out? What would that person look like? How can you spot that? What sort of... There's so many smiles around here. All right. Right. That's interesting. A lot of people, when they are depressed, they try to hide this. It's something to be ashamed of. It's something that you don't feel good about because it's some kind of a deficit. So people try to cover it up. What you can very often notice is that this teacher says that, would you like to have coffee with me? No, I don't have time. I have to correct my tests, I have to prepare, I have to do that, because it's very difficult to see people around you who are happy and you're not, and it's probably my fault. So people develop a sense of guilt. It's not easy to spot somebody with burnout, at least at the initial stages, because people don't come out with that.
I think it can be the opposite as well. Somebody who can't stop talking and complaining about everything, and try to show that everything bad that happens is not their fault, but
blaming. Right.
From also because they are completely unsatisfied with everything that happens in their classrooms, but they don't admit that.
And this kind of creates a staff room climate that you don't want to exist in, do you? Right. Okay. This non-stop complaining can be one way of coping with burnout, from what I've read, because when you let this out, when you actually verbalize your problems, it's halfway towards recognizing where the problems are, and you're not fishing for compliments, but you're fishing for attention. This is attention seeking. Remember your lonely sports person in the corridor. When I go up to you and complain, gosh, I have a headache, or what I want you to do is to show sympathy, because that helps you to do something against this loneliness. So that's where a lot of the complaints come. Hungarians are great. Hungarians know how to complain. And this is one thing I learned, that when you ask people how they are, yesterday I just asked somebody, how are you? And she started to go on and on a long list of things that was wrong. And I said, that's the wrong question. I asked the wrong question. So I learned it from a colleague. You don't ask anybody how they are in Hungary. You say, hi, it's so good to see you. Because then you can't go into a negative spiral. So it's not easy to spot. But yes, you will see the person who is sitting by herself or himself, who doesn't communicate, who is not part of the team. This loneliness is very often the first signal. Teachers are underpaid. Then why aren't we all burnt out? Actually, I'd like to show you a slide later on with two people on TED Talks who talk about motivation, very inspiring talks, who will tell you something about how high pay is actually working against motivation. Perhaps the ministry also knows that, and that's why our pays are not that high. But if you double the pay, it means that motivation might actually go down. Right. If the workload is too much, what do you feel?
Too much is too much.
It's personal, so for me it's too much, for you it's not.
So there's this personal optimum, but getting responsibilities, being useful, being responsible is something that people want. There's this Hungarian saying that it's always the horse that pulls hardest that needs to be pushed. For a while, yes. But workload in itself is not a cause for burnout. If you don't see the result and you don't get appreciation for what you've done, that is much more dangerous. Can burnout be helped with plenty of rest? Then with what?
What do you call rest?
Rest, coming to Veszprém for IATEFL. Yeah, okay.
Salsa classes.
Doing nothing, going on long weekend, reading, being on your own, sleeping it off? No. That's simple tiredness. Yeah, okay. If it's a professional issue, then the help can also be professional, and there are professional strategies, training, learning how to manage time, how to manage stress. Stress management is a huge area in business at the moment. Rest in itself is not very helpful. Is that true that burnout mostly affects men in managerial positions in business? Would the gentleman agree?
I would say that they are less likely to have their emotions. They can let us think more. They are allowed to let
They're more honest, you mean? Yeah, that's good news for the few of you.
They have a license to let
Okay. Yeah.
But women have a license to cry and show emotions and socialize and talk about their problems over coffee, which might be over beer, but they also have
Over coffee or over beer? Yeah, okay. Coffee and beer, that's the best remedy. Okay. So as I said, from the management perspective, whether your staff stressed or overwhelmed or stretched or busy, it's a very important thing what you call it. What sort of working climate there is in the classroom. If it's a management issue, you want your people to be motivated, to have the right amount of challenge, to get this Csikszentmihalyi flow state for your people. It very rarely happens. It very rarely happens that in a staff room, everybody is buzzing in a very positive tone, and people help each other, and people are motivated, and they are not. They cope with stress. And the staff room, I think, is very important here, because that's where most of us spend a lot of time. And whatever can happen in the staff room, I just don't know. If you look at these photographs again, what do you associate with the staff room or your office where you work? Is it a place for you to relax, to take a cup of tea or coffee? Is it where you do paperwork? Or is it where you meet colleagues? Or is it anything else? There's a question mark. I would like you to do a think, pair, share task. Think for 10 seconds. Where do your associations go? Just think. Yeah? And now share, okay? So what do you associate with your staff room? Can we open it up for any good ideas, anything that's not my 3 images but something else that your partners mentioned? Nothing extra, only these things?
For example, 20 people in one half of the group, and maybe 20 people the other half of the group.
Okay. Half and half for doing that. Anything else?
I worked in a school which had a double staff room. The first one was for the coffee and the chat and catching up with the gossip. The other one was the quiet room. You went there and everybody knew them. And you did mark tests, do some reading.
So there was a happy room, and there was work, a working office, yeah.
And it meant the two didn't mix.
Right.
You just wanted to chat.
Think it's a good idea? It's a nice idea. You have a social area and a working area. Nice. Anything else? Yeah. Okay.
It's also very good to share experiences, to ask for advice, to chat with the colleagues about what has happened.
You need this kind of area where you socialize. A lot of teachers, like in Megyes Péter's very famous article, The Solitary Language Teacher, you go into the classroom, close the classroom door behind you, and then you're your own boss. And you feel that that's where you are in control most of the time. If anywhere it's in the classroom, that's where you get immediate feedback about your work, and that's where you think, that's where I need to be. I've known teachers who never entered the staff room because they felt much happier in the classroom. But that's not your reference group. A lot of teachers feel that my students love me and that's enough for me to be a happy teacher. That's not, because it's your colleagues and your employer's appreciation that's professionally important for you. Your students are clients, they are not partners. And the staff room is the space where you really, really need to get the attention, the appreciation, the energy, the ideas, the caring and sharing, if you like. I remember a book that Angie Mulderes has written, was supposed to write with Jill Hadfield, and then she pulled out. And in the foreword of the Classroom Dynamics book that Jill Hadfield has written, she refers back to this, that Angie and Jill wanted to write about groaning and moaning in the English language classroom, and they started to research staff room. No, it was classroom for them. What makes a classroom climate good and bad? And then they ended up with improving the classroom dynamics. I think we need to improve the staff room dynamics. If our management hasn't got the financial resources for that, we need to help ourselves. So this is what I would like to look into now. And first of all, yeah, this is what my very small scale informal research results are. In a staff room, that's what people normally do. And the chat in the middle, most of the time in a negative classroom climate is complaints. People complain. And that's the contagious component of the thing. If people come up to you and start complaining, then you start getting lower and lower in energy. And I've been very, very lucky most of my professional life to work with people that I work with, where it's actually good to arrive at work, and you meet people in the corridor and they greet and they say, it's nice to see, and they don't ask me how I am because they know I would complain, but it's a nice, bubbly, energizing context. And there are ways to achieve that. And this is something I've stolen, to spend quality time in the staff room. You need to get rid of this woman. Anybody remembers this from Harry Potter? Moaning Myrtle. Moaning should be out. Eliminate moaning as much as you can. And I looked at a couple of course books. And this is what I found, that this is what we preach. This is from the rubrics of English language exercises. This is what we ask our students to do. These are instructions that we give. Work in pairs, cooperate, ask questions, listen again, revise and check, learn it, use it, check your work, evaluate yourself. I can. I copied it out from our language course. Do we do that? Do we do that in our staff rooms as well? Do we work in pairs or groups? No, because we don't have the time. Because everybody prepares individually, so you don't have the time to cooperate, and then you do.
She has me.
Wow. I envy your staff room. That's lovely. Okay. You cooperate, you work in pairs and groups, and that's a huge step towards not leaving any by themselves, sitting lonely in the corridor, asking questions. What sort of questions do you ask? Is it a professional context? Are they professional questions? Or are they questions like, now, how did you survive your lesson again? Are they nice questions, energizing questions, or are they questions that undermine your energy system? Listen again, listen to me. Do you have the time to listen to each other? Just 2 minutes. Do you revise and check? Do you check what you've done? Do you do it better the next time? And some people are nodding happily. Learn it, use it. Are you using what you learned from each other? How many times do you go past a colleague who says, thanks, I learned that, I used it, great. I had a colleague way back in the secondary school where I worked who walked around with post-it notes, which were very rare at the time, now that dates me. And she was walking around with post-it notes and putting thank you notes on people's desks. Thank you for this, thank you for that. Fantastic. Check your work, reflect, if you like, or evaluate yourself. What is it I can do better now? Do teachers do that, or we encourage our students to do it all the time for themselves? And then what I did, I talked to a couple of language schools, so I stopped here because I thought that we need to move on from here and we need to find out how to help ourselves in the staff room, not wait for the management to solve this issue. And then I collected a couple of things from teachers what they are either happy or unhappy to hear in a staff room. And I have a couple of quotes with me now. And I'd like you to do a little physical activity here. I'm going to give you about 10 sentences. Sentences that colleagues tell you in the staff room. If you think that it gives you nice feeling, if it gives you energy, can you just pull yourself up? You can even stand up if you like. You can put your arms in the air. If you think this is something depressing, can you just shrink as small as you can? All right? So let's start with, these are colleagues, not students. Students sometimes give us good feelings, saying that, that was a great lesson, miss, or sir. And then you feel good. But remember, your reference group is your colleagues. So when somebody says something like, I admire your creativity. That's nice. Okay, or once again, can you show me again how that word game works? Okay, right. There's such a mess in the resource library, you can't find anything anymore. Half the students in 10C haven't done homework again. Oh, I hate Mondays. I got the book I was telling you about. Would you like to borrow it? Okay. I loved your idea about that YouTube video. Can you send me the link? Okay. When I was a beginning teacher, I used to prepare until 2 o'clock every day. I did it for about 3 years. You will choose. Now, How would you explain this word to your students? How can anybody think that you can finish this book in 3 lessons a week? I don't know what I would do without you. No, that's nice. Stay like this. No, that's nice. A lot depends on what colleagues say and how it affects you. And very often we are not aware of this. That whenever I say that, oh, I hate Mondays, it actually affects the other person. Perhaps you heard things that you were not happy about. Perhaps you might also have strategies how to smooth this out, how to make it less powerful, how to tame these. Oh, I hate Mondays. What would you say? I hate Fridays and Mondays and Tuesdays. You can double it up. You can join in with the complaining, or you can say that, okay, 3 more hours of it and then we'll move on. Or what's wrong with Mondays? Because that person actually wants to talk. You might have strategies about that, but I would like not like to have a complaint session.
The sun's shining.
It's Saturday and the sun is shining. Yeah. It's lovely to be inside the room on such a lovely morning. Okay. Right. Okay. So what motivates? Let's look at the other side. What motivates? The 2 TED Talks I would like you to watch as homework. You know TED, you probably do. TED is a conference organized every year in America. Technology, entertainment and design, that's what the acronym means. But nowadays there's lots of other topics, basically anything and everything from playing jazz to neuroscience. Daniel Pink, The Puzzle of Motivation, is one of the most often watched TED Talk ever. He also wrote a book called Drive, which was on the national best-selling list, and it's translated into Hungarian, I think Motiváció 2.0 or something like that, or 3.0. The other one is Dan Ariely, What Makes Us Feel Good About Work, Good About Our Work. And the 2 little quotes are very much in line with each other. The first one says that autonomy, mastery and purpose makes you motivated rather than carrots and sticks, rather than giving you more money for your work. Autonomy, mastery and purpose. When you feel that you do what you believe you should do, you have a purpose because people notice the results of your work, people give you feedback, and mastery, you feel that I can do it at a high level. If you can create this kind of climate in the staff room, that's a huge step towards avoiding burnout. Dan Ariely has something very similar: meaning, creation, challenges, ownership, identity and pride. IATEFL used to have a t-shirt, I'm proud to be a teacher. You remember that? Now that's the kind of mentality that's impossible to be burnt out if you have this kind of mentality towards your work. And then what makes a good staff room? For me, if there is a sense of energy, where people greet, and that's very important, where you can't just sneak into the staff room and sit down at your desk and start working because people go up to you and greet. There are language schools which are fantastic with that. You can't take 3 steps without 3 people greeting you. It's nice to arrive in such a staff room. People smile, people make eye contact. We are so good at this when we manage our class. Do we manage our staff room in the same way? When you get acknowledgement, when you find some time, when there is this kind of happy corner or the social staff room where there is time to exchange experience, where there's time to exchange ideas, where there are messages waiting for you on your desk. Thank you for that crossword puzzle, worked, brilliant. And where people thank. That's interesting. When somebody is burnt out, people feel that that person needs to be helped. That person needs to be looked after. I think nothing can be more harmful. That person doesn't want to be patronized, doesn't want to feel even smaller and more helpless. that person wants to be asked for help. If I go up to my colleague and say, can you give me some ideas for a warmer, this is my classroom context. I say, I'm important. And that's the feeling that you would want to plant. Ask this person to give you ideas, to give you help, so that the self-esteem, and then you can thank the person afterwards. And that's little cheating circle, but I always say that teaching and cheating is made up from the same letters. It's a little trick. Ask for a little help so that you can give attention and you can thank. Because these people do have ideas, these people are teachers, but these people don't get appreciation, they don't get thanked. Because it's always the busiest teacher who gets the extra jobs. The seemingly busiest ones get the most thanks. Okay. So, climate change. Title of the conference, How to Change the Climate. It's a burning issue, I think. Yeah. How to change the staffroom climate. And I've got, from the schools I've been in the last 2 years, I collected the following ideas. One was have a bulletin board, and the bulletin board is perhaps not only for upcoming events and deadlines and information. A bulletin board about, what else can you write on a bulletin board? Motivational messages, yes. Yeah. I've seen a staff room where there was this piece of paper, like an advertisement from which you can tear off a telephone number. You know these things. If you're short of time, please take a little time for yourself. And there were 10 minutes at the bottom, and people were saying, 10 minutes, no, I have 10 minutes. 10 minutes for myself. That's nice. It's little motivational messages, but little things like students' bloopers, funny things from essays, or some collection of great ideas, collections of websites, collections of YouTube videos to watch. Something for your teacherly mental health rather than deadline. Talking, where people actually talk to each other. Talking is very, very important. A quiet staff room is a dead staff room. If you have a separate staff room for socializing, fine. But you can also have a small corner where you can just talk quietly, exchange professional ideas. In a staff room, I think it's nice to hear website, book, page, students, rather than cooking and washing up. So keep it professional as much as you can. Don't escape into private areas. Keep the professional aspect very high. Little presents, little messages. Here's the word game. Here's my warmer. Want to try out? Give me feedback. Thank yous. If you give, you can get a thank you for it. You can blackmail your colleagues for thank yous if you give a lot of things. And there's a tap of ideas in this staff room. Suggestion box, a box where you put in a copy of your latest idea that worked for you. Right? There was a staff room I visited where they said that you need to write on the back of the idea sheet which classes you have already used that in, because people use each other's ideas so much that you take your old idea into your class and it turns out that 3 other people have used it already. But I think it's nice that people give each other ideas. Just keep a record which one you have stolen from where and where you've used it. And the Chuck Norris approved ideas, that something that you can be proud of, something that you can keep on your belt as victories. What I'd like to do now is in the last few minutes that we have, behind you there are a couple of colored sheets, and in little thinking teams, what I would like you to do is basically 2 things. One is think about expressions, words, sentences that you heard from colleagues and you felt good. So what are the things that you hear in the staff room and it makes you grow, makes you feel more in control of the situation, which gives you energy, energizing ideas like, I don't know what I would do without you. A couple of things like that. If somebody told you something that you felt really, really good about, can you just keep it or leave a message? Similarly, if you think you managed to give energy to a colleague by saying, what are these messages that are nice to listen to, you can build on them, you can get out of a spiral that takes you down. This is one thing. Perhaps the top of the paper for that, and at the bottom of the paper, if you have any staff room ideas, any special features in your staff rooms that you feel add to your professional toolkit, that keeps it a positive professional place, a PPP, rather than complaints corner. Okay, so I'll give you about 3-4 minutes if you can choose one of these color papers. Can you talk to each other and just, you can leave them on the wall, that's fine, or you can take them off if you like. Just have a little conference with each other, with a few people around you, and leave a note so that we can read them before we go out. Okay? So I'll give you about 3-4 minutes to do that. No, actually 3. Can you improve on it? I've seen next to a coffee machine, I've seen a little notice board which was called a victory notice board. Like, Bela did his homework, and that was a great victory for that particular teacher. Or competition results. My team has done this or that. Some little personal victories with students, with whatever at the school. And that creates a huge impact on when you make the coffee, what is there on the wall behind the coffee machine. That's a lovely idea. Very cheap to do. What are our little victories? Right.
I think it was a good idea on our teachers first to have these preach magnets. Wherever we go out into the world or teacher training courses, we get these magnets.
Fridge magnets. I think that's something that you could actually put out there, yes. Have you got any ideas to put out? Good morning.
We need that coffee machine back because that Lowotza is great and that made by brilliant. So the only thing I need professionally is a coffee machine.
It's part of your professional toolkit.
And anyway, because my students are waiters and because whatever.
Oh yes,
and
of
my
course.
colleague, who is a teacher of catering and at the BGF and whatever, and I told him he brought a coffee machine one day. We rented, and that was really important to me and to us because that coffee was so good and so strong, and I always had to share it with somebody. And I always said, okay, half of my coffee, and then it was a very good way to socialize.
Invest into a coffee machine, right?
And you don't have to invest. We just need a certain amount of consumption per day, and this is a rented machine. And rent it actually.
This is not a copyrighted idea. Is this a copyrighted idea?
No,
Can
I
we
can give
steal
it
it?
to you, yes.
Yeah. Would you like to put it?
Lowotza machine.
Okay. No.
And I always check my coffee.
That's the important thing.
And that was really good.
Find the meaning of life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the meaning of life. Good coffee.
Okay. Right. May I stop you here? May I stop you? It would be lovely to keep on like this. This is the kind of staff room climate that I actually enjoy. This is what you need to reproduce in your classrooms, that people think, people share ideas, people inspire each other. And I would like you to actually look around these bits of paper before you leave. I heard great ideas. I don't know, probably we don't have time to go through all these pages, but in the break, before you run away, can you please look around? The green slip there is full of ideas, sentences that you heard. Great. Take one of those with you and say it to people on Monday. Yeah, on one of those. I've got slips of paper if you would like to take notes of the most important sentences. That you can even give it to people on a piece of paper. I heard this idea that you need a coffee machine that makes so strong coffee that you need to share it with somebody. And so on and so on. There are little tricks, but the most important thing is that people talk to each other about professional issues in staff rooms. You don't wait for students to praise your lessons or to be happy in your lessons. Teachers should be happy with each other. And this is why I said at the beginning that you're at the wrong place, probably, because if you're at IATEFL, when you come together as all these birds once a year, you migrate to Veszprém or to Budapest, and you come together as teachers to talk to each other, to listen to each other, you have no chance to burn out. Now, you need to take this message for your colleagues. And one of the things that happened yesterday, how to take the best out of a conference and what are you going to do after the conference is a very important issue. Are you going back to your schools and say that everybody's going to look at you, nah, they were at a wellness weekend, or are you going to say, I learned a couple of things, do you have a minute? I would like to share 3 ideas. Have you chosen your 2 or 3 colleagues that you would like to sit together over coffee and tell them what happens to you here? You will. Okay. Can you put your hand on your heart, on anybody else's heart, if you like, and make these plans. How to create this little bubble for yourself with people who can enthuse each other, who are not going to forget about each other, and who give professional energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.